Hey guys, welcome back to the How To Podcast in 10 Steps for Absolute Beginners. This is step 3. Pick a podcast format. What do I mean by this? This is what I mean. Is it just you? Is it interviews? Do you have a crew? Are you going to use voices? What about music or songs? So just you. My 2 podcasts are just me. Sometimes I'll have other people join me, but really rare. And simply because I'm enough. No, I would actually love to do an interview type show, and I would love to have a crew. But it's not something that I want to do yet. In the future, I really do want to do it, especially more interviews, maybe a series of interviews. But a crew, a regular show with a crew, that would be fun. But it would have to be funny for me to do it. So I do it myself, okay? Both podcasts. And like I said, my one podcast is pretty short, and the other podcast is much longer. So in the longer podcast, and sometimes in the short one too, I do use voices where I change my voice. Oh my God, are you serious? I just do silly voices. Country. Yeah, I do a country voice. Sorry to the country people out there. But that makes it fun. Okay. Now you might not like doing voices, and that's fine. Okay. Remember, there's cartoon voices, but then there's the intelligent voice, and then there's the dumb voice and the country voice. You can do all sorts of different types of voices. And trust me, if you do them, even if they sound stupid, it's actually kind of interesting or entertaining for the listener. So don't shy away. Experiment here and there with voices. It's fun. Interviews, very common in the podcast world, especially in the business world, and nowadays in the comedy world too of podcasting. Lots of interviews. Everybody wants to be an interviewer, and that's great as long as you have a goal. Remember, the essence of a podcast is you are helping people. You're teaching them, you're providing them with information, you're giving them enjoyment or entertainment. It's therapeutic for you, hopefully, to talk about these things. You feel good talking about them, or you get excited talking about them, but you want that to go to your listener too. You want them to feel that they're sitting next to you. Like the radio a long time ago. I don't know about the radio now, not so much now, but a long time ago, the radio DJ would read letters and talk about life and stuff like that. They do it today too, but it was kind of different. Once again, I'm a little bit older, so for you younguns out there, don't be discouraged. So if you are going to do interviews, make sure that they always kind of follow a step-by-step system where there's a beginning and an end, okay? Once again, it goes back to goal. So let's say I'm going to interview Elon Musk, okay? My God, Elon Musk is like doing everything and talking about everything. I mean, he talks about politics, he talks about family, he talks about space, he talks about money. What doesn't he talk about, right? So have a real focused goal and make it so that the Elon Musk interview and the next interview you do and the next interview that you do all have a common theme. You're getting something. And what is it? Is it future talk? Is it how to make money talk? Is it how to achieve goals talk? Is it how did you start out talk? Is it what is your daily ritual talk? Okay? Just don't interview and go all over the place. All right? Kind of have a focus there. Once again, Joe Rogan can do that. But remember how Joe Rogan kind of started, lots of fighters and lots of kind of conspiracy stuff. Ancient Aliens, ayahuasca, things like that. Obviously, the comedians. But Joe always kind of makes it, it gives a chance for the person being interviewed to enlighten us some way. Okay. And that's why people go back, because we gain something. Okay. Maybe sometimes it's just laughs, but in many cases, he's got these interesting people from so many different backgrounds, and they enlighten us. It's kind of like a TED Talk, but usually funnier, and sometimes some of that stuff too, right? Once again, having a crew is fantastic. Having a crew is not difficult if they're in the same room with you. Okay? I mean, you have to have microphones, and there's that technical setup. But that actually works pretty good. One thing to remember when you have a crew, and the same thing with interviews, let the other person talk and let the other person finish. So that's why I say when they're in the same room, it's much easier because you can do hand signals and stuff like this. And it really helps. You can see what's going on, and that really, really helps. So when you do interviews, obviously, if you're using Skype or Zoom or something like that, it helps, but there's always a delay. So just be careful about that. Let one person talk at a time. Very important. And like I said, I think a crew would be great. Like the morning radio crew, especially if you're talking about sports. I don't know. I keep going to baseball, but you got a rival sports guy. So one guy likes this team and the other guy likes this team, and they're talking about recent news. In 2020, there basically is none. Or their past seasons. And that could be just a lot of fun. The banter between the two guys, the fighting, the words, the drinking, the smoking, whatever it is, that could be a lot of fun. But it does take some technology, a little bit bigger investment. But since there's 2 or 3 of you, hey, you can cut the cost that way, right? Again, voices, I do recommend, especially if you're by yourself, using voices is not a bad thing. Music and songs, this is something that I stay away from. Now, we're going to talk about resources on where to get music, and there's a lot of free, non-copyright music out there. You can actually purchase music, have music made for you. It's sometimes really expensive and sometimes not, okay? But I absolutely recommend that you not use copyrighted music. Okay. Even let's say, for example, I had an interview with U2 and Bono came on and I started playing U2 music. It gets complicated because you're going to get flagged here and there. And then Bono's got to sign stuff and the record label's got to sign stuff. It's really complicated. So if you already know Bono, then you probably know other people who can help you out with copyright. But my recommendation for absolute beginners, don't. Just skip it. Any pop song, even, a lot of the, what do you call them? The sound effects are copyrighted. You just got to be careful. But there are places where you can get that stuff for free, and I will talk about that. There are a lot of podcasts that do indie music, and that seems to be fine. So guys, bands and singers that have not gone out to copyright world will let you play their stuff. That seems to be working good for some podcasts. I don't know all the legal stuff in that area. So for me personally, I stay away from music. I would love to do music. I really would, because I love music, but it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. We're going to be talking about putting this podcast on different platforms, okay? For example, iTunes and maybe YouTube. Boy, they don't play around when it comes to music. They don't play around. So I discourage music. I encourage voices. Just You is my thing, and I'll be showing you more on how I do it. Interviews is great. mind your technology. If the guys are if the person is in the room, it's much easier. Usually that's not the case. You can pre-record interviews. You can Skype. You can Zoom. There are lots of methods to do it. Audio quality is always an issue. So these are things that you got to really double check. Interviews are great, but it's a little bit sophisticated on the technology side, and I'll try and help you with that in the future, where for podcast software, hardware, recording and editing, I'll try and help you down here with that type of thing, but it is more complicated. Just you, a crew in the studio, voices. This is where my areas, and that I would really encourage beginners, absolute beginners, to do. And I would even get rid of that. Just you and voices as an absolute beginner. All right. That's my advice for this topic, and I'll see you in the next one.